A couple nights ago, I went out to Best Buy to pick up a couple of things, and when I came out, my car barely started, as in it turned over so slowly that it almost wouldn't start. Nothing was left on, like the headlights or interior lights or anything like that, so on the way home, I started thinking, is it the battery? Is it the starter? Is it the alternator? Maybe the cables, or what could be the problem? So now I've got the car back at the shop. I had a charger on it for a couple of hours, so the battery is as charged as it's gonna get. And I'm about to start to diagnose the issue rather than just assume and throw money at it. And I thought you might like to follow along as I diagnose it and we pinpoint exactly what the cause is.
Toys for life.
Safety alert. Now you guys know I don't go overboard on the safety items. You should always be safe, but with batteries, they rarely explode, but when they do...
Somebody tried to jump start this and probably had a bad connection and the battery just exploded. You can look inside and see the lead.
Acid can pretty much go everywhere, so at a very minimum, put on a set of glasses, preferably goggles if you have them, because a little acid in your eyes and they're not going to work anymore.
There's 20 million needles in my eyes and like fire.
Fire?
Yeah, fire.
As mentioned, I had the battery on the battery charger, which means it's about as charged as it's going to get. While it's charging on the charger, it'll be somewhere around 13.5 volts or so. So we disconnect the charger and we let it wait for about an hour or so, and this allows the battery voltage to kind of settle down to what it's going to stay at for normal battery voltage without any source of charging. Now I'm going to measure the battery voltage. A fully charged battery should be around 12.6 or 12.7 volts with the engine not running. Now I can tell from this battery, which I actually purchased, that it is 10 years old, which is a hint in itself because the vast majority of batteries that I've had in my adult life end up dying after around 6 or 7 years. Next, I'm going to check and see if the Fiero's charging system is working, and to do that, I'm simply going to start it up and take the voltmeter out one more time and check the voltage. If everything is functioning properly, it should be somewhere around 14.5 to 14.8 volts. Now I'm going to go ahead and perform a load test which tells how well the battery can deliver a serious amount of amperage without the voltage dropping down to too low of a level that it just doesn't provide enough oomph. To do this, we'll make sure the car is off, and I'm going to have an assistant get in the car and hold his foot to the floor. GM cars have what's known as a clear flood mode, and as long as your foot is to the floor, when you try to start the vehicle, it'll just turn over and it will not start. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and once again hook up my voltmeter, and then I'm going to ask my assistant to start cranking the vehicle, and over a period of about 10 seconds, we're going to see how low the voltage drops. It was getting late in the day and I ran out of time, so I jumped to a shortcut, which is essentially using a known good external battery and a set of jumper cables to jump the starter itself with the battery cables. Not the car, but the starter itself. Now in order to do that, basically all you need to do is disconnect the battery cables from the car's battery, get the car up in the air high enough so that with the jumper cables you can just attach one to the starter housing itself and then the other one to the main bolt where the power goes to the starter, and then using a screwdriver you just jump across to the input where the ignition trigger would be. And when I did that, I was rewarded essentially with the same slow and strained, and it smelled kind of like an electrical burning smell when I did that. So at that point in time, I pretty much knew I had a bad starter.
Time of death, 7:23 p.m.
So with that, up went the Fiero and out came the starter. Interestingly enough, testing the starter on the bench revealed another trap that's kind of easy to fall into. Take a look from a different angle. What did you see? I saw a starter that seemed to turn over maybe a little bit slower, but generally speaking seemed to work fine. And that would be a false passing result.
It's fake, phony, fake.
And that is exactly why I strongly prefer to jump the starter while it is still inside the car and has to overcome the pretty serious load of turning over the engine. Now I've got both the new and the old starter side by side on the bench, and I'm just going to perform a quick resistance check. And it's my understanding that a good starter in working condition should have 0.1 ohms of resistance or less, and the new one does. And a starter that has anything more than about 0.3 ohms of resistance is probably going to give you issues, and mine does. So now it's time for the moment of truth and time to find out if our diagnosis and repair are correct. Well guys, that's it for this week. Just a short video, but a real world repair we had to perform. If you liked the video and you got something out of it, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.